Breaking news out of New Orleans on this New Year's Day, where police say at least 10 people are dead after a pickup truck, plowed into a crowd on Bourbon Street. It happened just after 3:15 this morning, just after so many people had gathered there on Bourbon Street to celebrate the new year. ABC's Aaron Katersky on the phone with the latest. Aaron, good morning to you. What are we learning at this hour?
Morgan, according to New Orleans police, a small white pickup truck drove around barriers meant to prevent a vehicle ramming attack, sped up and plowed into a crowd of tourists and local residents still celebrating the new year on Bourbon Street, with a goal, the police said, of killing as many people as possible. The police superintendent said that the driver of the vehicle was hell-bent on causing carnage. 10 people are dead. 36 people were injured and taken to area hospitals. As soon as the driver came to a stop and exited the vehicle, police said he immediately began firing at responding officers. They returned fire and shot and killed the suspect there at the scene. Once the authorities began investigating the vehicle, they appear to have found what the FBI described as improvised devices. Those are now being investigated for viability. It's a complex investigation involving a vehicle ramming, gunfire, and an improvised explosive device potentially, and the authorities were quick to call this an act of terrorism.
Well, Aaron, the police superintendent, as you pointed out, said that this particular suspect was hell-bent on hurting as many people as they could. We know that this area had been shut down, so many barricades. I mean, leading up to all of this, more than 300 police officers were already just around trying to secure this particular area. What are we learning about a possible motive?
The authorities were fully staffed for New Year's Eve celebrations. There's a parade that's supposed to take place today, the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans later tonight. So in addition to a fully staffed New Orleans Police Department, they called an additional 300 officers from partner agencies to help provide protection and security. And until 3:15 a.m. local time, everything had been fine. The authorities did not say anything about a motive, but did make it clear this was an intentional act. They've undoubtedly by now identified who the suspect is and knew enough about his motive to immediately turn the investigation over to the FBI and call this an act of terrorism. Was he angry? Was he motivated by some kind of online propaganda, some kind of foreign terror group? That the police nor the FBI said, but they were confident enough at this point to call it terrorism and to ascribe this as some kind of an intentional act.
Absolutely. We know that investigation, as you pointed out, so complex, from, the explosive devices to, the driver plowing through the shooting as well. We are hearing from a witness who, heard and saw all of this unfold. Let's take a listen to what they had to say.
Around 3:15, we heard a pop, 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 pop sound, followed by a sound that sounded like fireworks going off, like a big firework all at once. And it turned out that was the crash. So that pulled us out of bed. Peeked through the curtains to see, what was going on. And at that point, we saw cops all over the place, stacking up, rifles trained on the car. So, peeking through the windows, we kind of backed away to make sure that the situation was okay. Saw the cops telling people in the other buildings, like, stay inside, stay inside.
Yeah, that witness there describing what he thought initially were fireworks, only to find out, as we just heard from Aaron, that there were gunshots. I do have another witness on the phone. Jimmy, are you with us? Can you briefly just describe what you heard, what you saw? Take us through everything that you witnessed on Bourbon Street there.
So Bourbon Street, like he said, probably about 3:10 a.m. We were heading towards Canal, which is the way the truck was coming towards us. We ducked off into a nightclub because we weren't sure what was going on at the other end, and it looked like just nothing we wanted to see, so we just ducked off into a club. By the time we got in, 5 girls had ran in frantically and hid under chairs. So us knowing where we were, we ran upstairs to the balcony to make it less available if something was following inside. And what we witnessed was body after body mangled, just as far as you could see. We counted 10, and at least 6 were instantly, clearly deceased. And they were trying to get everybody just to stay inside, but everyone had just completely disappeared. Like, after these people ran over, I think we were the only ones outside on the balcony, and we took video just for the sheer shock. Like, you don't see stuff like that on city streets. Yeah. And just no one was helping them. Like, that was kind of the first crazy thought we had, is why is no one helping them? They wouldn't let us out. And obviously, like I told you, some were very clearly deceased, but others were yelling out. And it's a lot to process.
Yeah. And I can hear that shock in your voice. Obviously, this had to be horrific to witness. I mean, I imagine that you were there celebrating, with your friends, your loved ones, ringing in the new year. And then to see and to watch all of this unfold, what was going through your mind, Jimmy?
Shock. Like, it looked like something out of a movie, the way these bodies were mangled. And we had just seen this one girl outside dancing when we were walking up, and not to be too graphic, but she was flattened. Like, this was a full-size F-150 4x4, and this girl didn't even look human. And then another one had to be a mother. She was dead in front of us, right at my feet, just twisted, skull. I mean, I could just keep going. Another gentleman, he was for sure deceased. He actually had tire tracks over his stomach and back when they were trying to finally check on him. And another woman had got her legs pinned when he run her over. Half her body was on the street, half her body was on the curb. So she obviously was very broken, but still breathing at that moment.
Yeah.
These people are never going to wake up.
Yeah. The pure shock and the panic there that you just described, Jimmy, is so heartbreaking. I'm so glad that you are okay, and hopefully those that were with you and around you are okay as well. Jimmy, thank you for sharing that. Right now, I do want to bring in ABC's Josh Margolin. Josh, you're learning more about the FBI investigation. We heard earlier from the Superintendent Kirkpatrick with the New Orleans Police Department that initially they're thinking that this may have been an act of terrorism. What are you learning from the FBI? What are they looking into in terms of a motive? Where does this investigation play from here?
Well, the FBI will be slow to actually call it terrorism at this point. That's actually a federal crime. It's a federal charge. So just because something is a terrorist act, like the police chief obviously believes it was, and like it looks, the FBI is not going to be able to say that until they do more investigating. So as the police are clearing the scene and bomb squad is checking out this device to see if it is actually an explosive device, if it's functioning, the FBI already is doing what they can. They are taking the license plate of the truck. They are digging into the history of the truck. They're digging into the history of the owner of the truck. The person behind the wheel, presumably that person would be the owner of the truck. They're going to dig into that person's history, the online footprint, talk to people that the person had been talking to in recent days. The key is to find out what brings this driver, who allegedly was also a shooter, what brings this person to Bourbon Street with the intent to hurt people, as was described by police. And there are any number of possibilities. We've seen this sort of terrible alchemy out there of all of these different stewing grievances, people who are angry at the government, people who are angry at America, people who are angry in their workplace. We see school shootings. We've seen, other workplace shootings. And we've also seen a reemergence of jihadist and sort of ISIS type or Al-Qaeda type of Islamist, anti-America kinds of sentiment since the explosion of violence in the Middle East on October 7th, 2023, and the wars that Israel is now engaged with in Gaza and in Lebanon have really added to this really, really dangerous heightened threat environment in this country.